Hare Krishna, everyone. Welcome to this week's edition of the Hare Krishna Project podcast. This is episode number 95. I can't believe it, 95 episodes. A big thank you to everyone who continues to tune in now from all over the world. Whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, it's great to have you with us. If you are watching on YouTube, please do not forget to hit that all-important subscribe button, which is right there. So you can be kept updated about future podcasts from the Hare Krishna Project. And of course, if you're watching this on Facebook, please do like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page so you're kept updated about future podcasts and other things we're doing at the Hare Krishna Project as well. As you know, we have a global audience now, which means it's important to have a global variety of guests. I don't know if that makes sense, really, but we have guests from all over the world. Me here sitting in Britain, I can connect to anyone in the world, which is fantastic. And this week, we're off for the first time off to Hong Kong. What a place. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome our guests, Sravaniya. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Jai Prabhupada.
Jai Srila Prabhupada, absolutely. Sravaniya, it's great to have you with us. Let's start off with a nice, easy question. Please tell us a bit about you and where you're from.
Okay. All right. Well, I was born in this life in Midwestern USA, and I grew up in Ferguson, Missouri, North County, St. Louis. I had an Italian father and an Irish mother. So as you might guess, they were Catholic. My mom told me when I was 12 years old, learn how to type and you'll always be able to find a job. So I began working part-time since I was 14 years old. I was started at the Department of Motor Vehicles, doing paperwork for registering driver's licenses and automobile sales. This was a part-time job. I graduated from McClure Senior High School in 1970. One of my classmates was Michael McDonald, the great singer who played with Steely Dan and the Doobie Brothers. That was my classmate.
Wow.
And my family was lower middle class. And so it looked like my parents were not going to pay to send me to university. So after graduation, I got a job at the Farmers Home Administration, which was a civil service job for 6 months. And I went vegetarian and I was doing a lot of reading. I've always been interested in metaphysics and the mysteries of life. So I wanted to understand consciousness and reality. That's what interested me. Psychology was not enough. So I had been reading Be Here Now by Ram Dass and Swami Vishnudevananda's complete illustrated book of yoga. I was doing some yoga poses. I checked out the Yoga Sutras by I.K. Taimni from the Eastern Philosophy section of the Ferguson County Library. So I learned, I never let my schooling interfere with my education, as Mark Twain said, which, by the way, is today his birthday, Mark Twain. So I learned more by reading than anything in school. So I can remember one of the many English translations of the Gita at that time telling me that I'm one with all that is. I am moving the sun and the moon. These editions of Bhagavad Gita can be quite flattering, but they are far from transformative. So I always thought, maybe not. But my meeting with Srila Prabhupada was through one of his books.
Wow.
I told my brother Bob I was interested in yoga, and he mentioned that he had received a book entitled Krishna Consciousness, the Topmost Yoga System. He got that at the St. Louis Art Museum in Forest Park. Somebody handed it to him, most likely a Hare Krishna devotee on book distribution. It was in his drawer with his socks and underwear. So I rummaged through and took it out, and I read it cover to cover. I didn't understand everything I read, I was in my atheistic phase, which is forgivable for a teenager. Thank God I grew out of it. But I could not disagree with what Prabhupada was saying. I needed to learn more, right? So that was just beginning a little bit about where I'm from.
Wow. So in terms of, I guess, kind of a bit more information about how you met the devotees, you were given, or how you discovered Krishna Consciousness, you were given a copy of one of Prabhupada's books.
Yeah, through my brother's hands.
Wow, wow. And in which year was this?
1970.
1970. And then at some point you wanted to delve deeper. So did you, how did you then go and meet the devotees? What was that kind of story like for you in terms of, yeah, tell us a bit about that in terms of how you met the devotees, and then I assume met Prabhupada maybe at some point. I mean, is it,
I mean, I met Prabhupada.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did, but it was some time after I got initiated.
Okay, tell us a bit about those early days with the devotees. Yeah.
Okay, all right. Well, I would ride the bus to work every morning and back in the evening, because I was in the county, in the suburbs, and I would go downtown to go to work. And one evening on the bus, I heard something very unusual. When I looked out the window, I saw some guys on the sidewalk, and they were chanting something, and they were shuffling back and forth, banging a drum, and had little cymbals in their hands. It was a cold day. They were wearing woolen caps and jackets. I had this really strong impulse to jump off the bus and ask them what they were doing. But I didn't want to be downtown after dark, so I stayed on the bus and went home. But I was so interested in yoga. I asked my younger brother, Gary, if he knew any yoga places in St. Louis. And back then, yoga was not popular like it is now. There's no internet, only the yellow pages. So he told me there was something downtown. And he told me the name, and I found the address. And I drove myself over to the Hare Krishna Center on a Thursday night. That was where the devotees were based, headed by His Grace Vamandev Das Adhikari and his good wife Indira Devi Dasi. Really, really special. It was a small temple with only a few devotees. They were about to have Bhagavad Gita class. And there was one brahmachari who gave the class, and I was the only one in the temple room listening. So it was just one guy and just me. And it was Srila Prabhupada's small purple-colored abridged Bhagavad Gita as it is. I don't remember the verse or the topic, but when I heard it, I realized that this was what I had been looking for. After class, somehow a devotee asked me if I would like to stay. And I said, yeah. Okay. I was 18. I graduated high school. I was in between jobs. Everything fell into place. So I joined the temple, and the next morning I chanted 16 rounds. Hearing from Srila Prabhupada was a life-changing event that caused me to take the road less traveled. So that's how I met the devotees. I got initiated long distance. Prabhupada was in London. I was in St. Louis, and he sent me a letter and my chanting beads by mail. And this was in August 1971. I lived in and visited ISKCON ashrams around the world, from Detroit, New York City, Dallas, Texas, London, Paris, Bombay, New Delhi. I was also part of Vishnu Janaswami's Radha Damodar Traveling Roadshow. And then I was in the Vaikuntha Players in Brooklyn Henry Street Temple. I used to write the scripts for the plays, some of them, not all of them. And I was at the Krishna Balaram Mandir on opening day. So
wow.
Hong Kong and Taiwan temples were places I worked in the 80s and 90s. The 80s and 90s, I was in the Far East.
Wow. Can I ask, you moved into the temple at the age of 18.
Yeah.
What did your family think about all of that? Your parents and things?
Okay. So they didn't know what that was, and they tried to find out what it was, and it sounded like a cult. And a week or two later, maybe a week later, my dad drove my mom to the temple, and she came inside and she begged me to come home. And I tried to tell her, no, I'm okay here. This is good. And she was crying, and she asked me to come back, and I just asked Indira, please talk to her. I can't deal with this. So I just would not go home. And that was that. And it was 8 years before I saw them again.
Really? 8 years?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And what was just so I kind of can picture it in my head, the distance between the temple that you were, I know you moved around a bit, but the temple that your mother met you in and her home, is it a long drive? Was it quite close?
Oh yeah, right. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's lots of stories like yours in terms of the early days of the movement and young people joining the movement, and the relationship or relationships with their family, because yeah, I mean, when I joined almost 20 years ago, my mother kind of didn't really know what it was, but I think society's changed now in terms of she wanted me just to make my own decisions. But I imagine back in the early 70s, where anything that wasn't predominantly white Christian was seen as even more alien or foreign, um, or cultish.
They didn't know anything about it. I hadn't been reading about it, except that one little book. So I guess Gary must have told him that he told me where it was and things like that. But it just, this is a business from past life, unfinished business from past life. That's what happened. So.
Yeah, yeah. So Sravaniya, you're a published author, which is very impressive. And you've written many books, which is fantastic. Can you please tell us a bit about the books that you've written, and why do you have such a passion for writing?
Okay. Well, I got my books right here. So
Great.
I have 9.
Wow. That's
And
amazing.
I have to tell you, yeah, my husband, Dhananjaya Sri Krishna, he is the one who does the graphic design and the publishing, and he does all the little details and things like that. And without him, I couldn't do any of this. And also, it's very interesting that now you can self-publish, whereas before you had to get HarperCollins or somebody like that to approve your manuscript and this and that. So the first book I wrote was Basic Bhagavad Gita, because I was teaching. Now I've been a yoga teacher for a long time, and I was teaching only asanas for a long time. But then they started these teacher training courses, and people wanted to go deeper. So initially, I just made little 10-hour courses, guided study courses, and I gave certificates because I'm certified by Shivananda Yoga Vedanta Center, and I'm certified by Yoga Alliance. And so they got this little certificate after they finished the whole course. And I wrote the book Bhagavad Gita to help people understand, common people to understand what's actually in it. It was kind of from the outside in, because if you say, too much Sanskrit, the brain shuts off, So I tried to explain to them what it means. So that was this one. And later on, I did Yoga Sutras, Basic Yoga Sutras. This one here. But I had been writing for such a long time. And the reason why, I'll just share with you from, this is Ancient Teachings, Modern Perspectives. These are
Wow.
just some essays that I wrote. And this is why. Okay, Yogi Bhajan. Here's a quote from Yogi Bhajan. If you want to learn something, read about it. If you want to understand something, write about it. If you want to master something, teach it. So I cannot seem to shake the tendency of trying to understand the mysteries of life. When I was 11 years old, much to the surprise of my Italian auntie, I avidly read The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I was just a kid, and I'm reading this book. And she's going, what? Later on, Vedic became the lens of my magnifying glass. Revealed scriptures in the yogic tradition, handed down in the lineage through my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Back in 2004, I had a little blog that I'm sure nobody read. It was called That's What She Thinks, where I would write about my ruminations regarding whatever caught my attention in the world around me. During years of work in Hong Kong, reading yoga on the one hand, teaching yoga, on the one hand and studying on the other, quite a pile of notes and realizations accumulated. I consider that perhaps some of them may provide insights for other spiritual seekers. Those among us who want to understand life and make sense of this world, or who maybe have had enough of the tossing and turning in the ocean of material existence and want to make their way to ultimate peace and happiness. So it is that I decided to share some of my writings.
Wow. So you've written 9 books, published 9 books. When did the first one come out, and when was the most recent? What's the span between?
2004 was the first one, and the last one was just recently.
Wow. And why do you have that kind of passion for writing? What is it about
It's just the
writing that
way
you really love?
I'm trying to understand how the philosophy fits into regular life. Now, so that's why, and I could see it, and I could, and now I love the fact that there is online Veda, Vani quotes and Vanipedia, where you can look up anything really fast by Prabhupada and find the references. It's great. Really, really makes it easier to confirm verses and things like that.
And in terms of your books, so with this podcast, just so our viewers know, we're going to put a link to your website and various other links. So there's on your website, or people can buy your books. There's like an online shop, is there, to get hold of them?
You can buy them on Amazon. I just give the reviews. I've got really nice reviews from devotees and some professors who very kindly read my book and said a few words about what they thought. And so I give the link how to get to Amazon and get my books. And if a temple wants to order some of my books for their shop, I can give them a special deal. I can order author price plus shipping, and then they just pay for that and then charge retail price and save the profit for their temple. So that's possible.
That's really, really good. I always feel very inspired when I meet authors, just because, so I on my bucket list several years ago was to write a book, and I have written one book, and I have a plan when I get around to it to write a second, but I just feel so like not overwhelmed, in awe when I'm around authors, because that kind of whole discipline of sitting down and writing and researching, and the fact that you've written 9, I recorded an interview, must have been a couple of months ago, with Henry Doktorsky, who's written also a similar number of books on of something quite different in terms of New Vrindavan. But yeah, I'm just always kind of inspired when I meet authors. Do you plan on writing any more books in the future?
I've already written more books, and they're just sitting there in the file.
Oh wow, that's amazing. Um,
Yeah,
quite awesome. Okay.
yeah. This is my book, Pathway Through the Forest. It's about tarot and Vedic knowledge.
Wow.
I wrote this because I was pushed by several devotees. They were so fascinated by the idea of the Vedas and the tarot. How do they go together? So I wrote that book.
That actually leads us really nicely onto the next question, which
Oh,
is around you have an interest in kind of astrological analysis and are an experienced medium. Please tell us a bit about that and what it involves, in terms of when did you take an interest, and when did you realize that you had the gift? Because what I mean by that is that I'm sure if you showed me a pack of tarot cards, I wouldn't know what to do with them. So yeah, please share with us a bit about that in terms of kind of mediumship and astrology and things.
okay. Well, since I was a child, I've been talking to spirits, and I thought everybody did that. But when I was small, I found out that they don't do that. So I just didn't say anything about it. And I kept it to myself. And as I grew up, it seemed that my way of looking at things was so different from most others. It felt like the stork had dropped me down the wrong chimney. It's like, how did I get in this place? I was just so different from everybody else. But it appears that this was Krishna's way of making it easy for me to leave family life and take to bhakti yoga. So I began studying astrology and tarot through dire necessity. In 1990, I was in a foreign country, alone, without close friends or family, and I needed some kind of guidance to help me steer a course in my new chapter. I'd been a wife and working mother with a devotee in Taiwan in an abusive marriage, and I had just gotten a divorce a few years earlier. And then I became a professional yoga teacher working solo with my own business in Hong Kong. The name of my business was Body and Soul Limited. Because I wanted to understand more about my talents, my challenges, my personality in this life, and what was coming towards me down the road, I took to astrology. I trusted it because it was based on numbers and therefore verifiable. I go to the New Age shop in Soho near central Hong Kong, peruse the books, and buy a few to study. So I was studying about astrology and reading my own chart, and then reading chart of my sons and people that I knew, my parents, so that I could understand them better. And at first I did not believe in tarot. I thought it was airy-fairy. But I sat down for a reading with an amateur. She laid out the cards, and then she read the meaning from a book that she was holding in her hands. And I was amazed at how accurate the information turned out to be. I said, "How do you know that?" And she just held the book and goes, "It's in the book." I said, "Oh, whoa." So I got a copy of that book and a deck of cards, and I started reading for myself. I have to say, it made a tremendous difference. Made a tremendous difference. I would read for myself every day, and guidance gradually became stronger. So I could understand what was going on. The cards are actually depicting stages of consciousness described in the Bhagavad Gita. I was asked by a devotee in an interview, "How did you put tarot and the Vedas together?" So let me read you what I told her. it was Damayanti Dasi. Can you explain what is the connection between tarot and the Vaishnava philosophy? How can you combine and connect them? And I told her it's my own experience how they connect, because I studied Vedanta with Srila Prabhupada's books and his teachings back in the 70s. And when I learned tarot, I saw that it is describing the same kinds of experiences. I've always been interested in metaphysics, astrology, yoga, philosophy. And when I studied tarot in the 90s, I could see how they really do interconnect. The tarot is giving images about things that I'm reading about in the Bhagavatam. So that's just me. I put it together. And so when I do slide presentations, now when I teach philosophy, I do from slide presentations that I create. And I often use a tarot card to illustrate a verse. So I can show you some of that right now, if you
Yes,
like.
please. I would like. Yes, please, definitely.
Let's have some fun here. So, oh, yeah. Okay, so the tarot is a visual depiction of the struggle for existence, but more importantly, the process of self-realization, of which anartha-nivritti is a big deal for us. To cleanse the mirror of the heart, to get rid of the contaminated mind waves of lust, anger, and greed takes time and effort. So, your mind, this is the moon card. It's a lot going on inside your head that you're not in control of unless you make the effort to do so. This is doubts. This is lust, different kinds of urges. And see the pathway going through the two dualities of material existence. So this is when the future is not, you don't know what the future is. You don't know where you're going, any road will take you there, right? So that's what this card is about, and control. Here's something. Okay, so here's a verse from Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2, text 38. This is the chariot. Okay, this is when someone, I'm going for it. That's what this is, going for it. All right, so Krishna says, do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin. Now you can take the word fight out and put whatever it is you do. Do thou cook for the sake of cooking. Do thou write for the sake of writing. Do thou speak for the sake of speaking. And you don't worry about the outcome. Do it and offer it to him. Offer it to Krishna. Here's a good one. Temperance card. Okay. Temperance. This is how we should chant our japa. Be here now. This breath, this bead, okay? This mantra, and be right there. So the verse is from chapter 6, verse 26. From whatever and wherever the mind wanders due to its flickering and unsteady nature, one must certainly withdraw it and bring it back under the control of the self. That looks pretty good, doesn't it? And see her toes in the ocean of nectar, just in touch with the ocean of nectar. Right? Then what we got? We got Hierophant. The Hierophant. Okay, there's the Guru card. And he's got 2 disciples at his feet. All right. And he has a Tridandi. See the stick he's holding? It's got 3 sticks. Yeah. So just try to learn the truth by approaching a spiritual master. Inquire from him submissively. render service unto him. Self-realized soul can impart knowledge unto you because he has seen the truth. See at the bottom, there's keys. See the keys? He's got the keys and he's giving it to the disciple. But the disciple has to take the key, get up and go open the door and go out. That's what he has to do. It's not that, oh, I got the key. Yay, what's for lunch? You know, no, you gotta do their service. Okay, then there's a strength card. You like this?
I'm loving this.
Okay.
I've never done this on a podcast before, so this is certainly new for us.
Okay, so this is the strength card. This is really good. So this is the spirit controlling his own body and mind. You see the infinity symbol above the head means that this person, this Jivatma, is in touch or connected to the Paramatma. That's what that means. Right. So the animal instincts are there, but the spirit is controlling them. Not now. We'll do that later. Okay. And gently but firmly. Right. So, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind, and intelligence, one should control the lower self by the higher self, and thus by spiritual strength, conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Chapter 3, verse 43. Okay, so if I do a slide, I'll use this, and it really makes it, because people nowadays, they really need images, don't they? They need imagery, not just words. So that's helpful to them. Okay, and then there's judgment. The judgment card. What is this about? This. The image represents spirits coming out of material bodies. There's something beyond this material world. The angel, who is like the spiritual master, a messenger sent by God, is calling them to awaken from the false dream that I am this body, I belong to this country, this society, this tribe. The archangel is calling them, delivering the message. The souls who have reached the human form of life are hearing, and this is the beginning of their realization. So that's what the judgment card is about, right? Right. Thy will be done in me this day. Thy will be done. Yes. And he'll use everything he's got to do it. That's good. All right. So that's a little intro. What do you think?
It's fascinating. Yeah. So you've identified this very strong link between kind of tarot cards and kind of Vedic philosophy. And how they kind of both link together. Yeah, I mean, I'm aware of some other devotees who read tarot cards, because I think in kind of general, certainly Western society, there is this view that kind of tarot cards and other things are very much part of the occult, aren't they? And it's something, I had kind of a Christian upbringing, kind of nominally, so therefore those are the things that you shouldn't really get involved with. But then when you kind of grow up and you do your own reading and your own research, and you actually kind of identify that the occult is actually something a bit different, and tarot cards can be used for very, very positive reasons. It just
yes, they can be used as counseling tools.
Yeah.
It's not to tell the person what to do or to predict the future, to tell them what to do. It's to show them to take them back from their emotions and see the bigger picture so that they can make a more informed decision themselves. Yeah. Here, I found something very interesting. I did some research to see if tarot has any Vedic equivalent. All right. Check this out. This is from Krishna book, chapter 45, we learned that Sandipani Muni taught Krishna and Balaram 64 arts, and among them were these. Krishna learned the art of foretelling events by seeing signs in a book called Kanar Vachana. Kanar Vachana. The various types of signs and omens are described, and Prabhupada gives a few omens and how to understand them. The result of understanding these signs is that one can foretell events, and Krishna learned the science. They also learned how to draw and read pictographic literature. Pictographic literature? In some countries in the world, pictographic literature is still current. A story is presented by pictures. For instance, a man and house are pictured to represent a man going home. Sounds like tarot. He learned the art of a psychiatrist who can understand the psychic movements of another person. This is from Krishna book. All right. So Krishna learned, quote unquote, from Sandipani Muni a whole bunch of stuff. So that obviously was still there in the Vedic culture.
Can we talk a bit about? Yeah, go ahead. Please go ahead.
This is the card about surrender. This is what surrender looks like. Okay. When you surrender, you take your hands off trying to control everything, and you ask the higher self within, tell me, what am I supposed to learn here? And give me your guidance. You start to see everything completely different than what you thought it was, and the light switches on inside your head. The intelligence switches on. This is what surrender is like. And it doesn't mean that you're a martyr. No, it means this is realization. That's all. So go ahead and ask me the question.
I wanted to talk a bit more about your kind of gift of seeing spirits, and you mentioned that since you were a child that you could see spirits. Tell us a bit about that.
Well, I talk to.
Is it literally that you can see spirits or talk to spirits out in the street like they're anyone else?
I can hear them.
Okay.
I can hear them. Yeah. And when learning to read the tarot, you develop a team of spirits guidance that helps you. So the spirits in your team talk to the spirits, that the guardian angel that is with the other person, and those spirits tell these spirits what's going on with them, and my spirits tell me, and then I see it in the cards and I convey it to them. Because the urges of the mind and body are so strong that ordinary people cannot hear their own guidance, their own conscience, the higher self within. So this is the problem, right? Only a devotee who is following the 4 regulative principles and chanting 16 rounds, which, by the way, is a magic wand. 16 rounds minimum is a magic wand. You do that and then a light turns on, just like the surrendered man. So this is very important. But there are different kinds of spirits, and you have to be very careful. Yeah. And so I'm doing a presentation next, and I'm going to write a book about this. Material world. It references to Alan Kardec and his work with spiritism, and how he graded the spirits into 10 different categories depending on the density of material covering of their subtle bodies. And it's fascinating, but it's very organized, and it fits right into what we learn in Prabhupada's teachings.
So do you provide these services as like a professional psychic medium, you know, tarot readings and spirit readings?
Sure.
People come to you, you know, and they can
Yeah.
employ your services. This is one of the things that you do.
I've been doing that since 1992.
Wow.
I've been doing this since 1992. And I had people from all over the world, because this is a international city. So we have amazing people from all over the world here. And I've had people come to me for counseling, you know, they want to have a session. And it's always helpful to them. All of them have been very, very satisfied. Yeah.
I'm always really
I do
sorry, go ahead.
astrology readings.
Yeah.
I do astrology readings too. Usually it's well, and numerology as well. So I know how to do all that. Depending on what they need.
Yeah, I'm always intrigued when I meet psychics and clairvoyants and things, because I'm not sure what they can read about me. Or so we have had one guest on this show before who was a psychic medium and clairvoyant. And it was just we were talking about the relationship between Krishna consciousness and the occult. It must have been episode maybe 38. This is 95, so it was a long time ago. He's a devotee based in London. And yeah, I didn't put him on the spot actually during the interview. I mean, I wonder if I could do that with you. Is there anything that you could tell me about me, if that makes sense? You know,
not really a good idea to do it like that.
That's okay. That's okay. Because this other psychic that we did, that I had on the show, he told me some things after we stopped recording. Which yeah, I mean, I wouldn't have minded if that was on the recording, but it was just wow, you know, he knew something about me that there was no way he could have known about me, because he didn't really like you and I, we've met for the first time today on the internet. You know, he didn't know me, and he told me something about my life that there's no way he could have known, you know.
Right.
So I just was quite fascinated by that. So we're almost coming towards the end of the recording. Could we just talk a little bit about a kind of Hong Kong? So you're living in Hong Kong. I saw online recently you were speaking at the ISKCON temple in Hong Kong. I saw that on the internet.
Yes.
So
I speak there 3 times a month. They invite me.
What's the devotee community like in Hong Kong?
Well, of course, there's a lot of Indians, but there are Chinese devotees that have been doing service for 30, 40 years. And I feel like they're my family, really, because I've known them for that long. I have been in the Far East. First time I came was in 1975. And then we left, and then I came back again in 1983, 82, 83. And then I was working in Hong Kong since 1990 till 2007. So, and I've been here again for 8 years, another 8 years. So I've spent more time here than anywhere else. When I went to Texas, I felt like I was in a foreign country. Really, I had to kind of adjust. When I come back to Hong Kong and I hear the Cantonese, you know, on the radio and the taxi and stuff like that, it feels like home, you know, I don't know. But the devotees are very dedicated, and they're really, really nice. And they have certain things that they do really well, and they get on that. And I really like that about them, you know. So it's kind of liberal here. as far as, I can give class wearing jeans and a collar shirt and a blazer. I don't have to wear a sari and cover my head, because every time I cover my head, my brain shuts off. So I don't like to do that. I just dress nicely like a proper person. But they don't have a problem with that. They love it.
I think in a international cosmopolitan city like Hong Kong, you have to adapt and modify. Actually, I would say that anywhere in the world, you need to adapt and modify based on time, place, and
Sure.
circumstance.
Yes.
Unfortunately, in London, even though it's international and cosmopolitan, the Hare Krishna temples aren't as progressive, so to speak, as Hong Kong. But maybe in 10 years' time or so. And in terms of the kind of the ISKCON temple in Hong Kong, how much does it engage with the community? How much kind of community engagement is going on there?
Oh, lots. They have cooking classes with people. Um, they have food sales that they make bread and things like that, and they even wanted to open a little shop to sell prasadam, but they didn't quite do that because they don't have a lot of devotees to handle that on a regular basis. But they go on Harinam every week. It's fabulous. And what else? What else do they do? They have an eco farm, and they grow their own vegetables and things like that. So it's amazing. And they have people making flower garlands who are not living in the temple. They come and they make the flower garlands and stuff like that for the deities, and it's really first class. I have to say that.
Is there a British sannyasi in Hong Kong?
Sannyasis come and go.
Mm.
All kinds of sannyasis come and go here.
Because I've seen a number of times a sannyasi speaking on ISKCON Hong Kong. I'm sure he's got a Scottish accent or a British accent.
Oh, that's Nishinga Maharaj.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Nishinga Maharaj. I think he's Scottish, and I first met him in Brooklyn, New York, Henry Street Temple in 1973, 74.
Yeah, he's not lost his Scottish accent.
Not at all.
Amazing. Okay, that's fantastic. I mean, I know that time's tight today. We've been talking for almost an hour. It's actually been fascinating to have you as the guest on this week's podcast. I was just saying before we started the recording, I really admire your professionalism. Often when I interview devotees, I have to, it's difficult to work out the time and work out what's what, but I appreciate how organized you are. It's definitely a positive thing. So yeah, it's been great to talk about your books, your kind of psychic mediumship. And I love that link that you kind of told us about kind of tarot reading and kind of fortune telling with Krishna book. I didn't know that. So I'm going to go.
I didn't know it either, but I looked it up, and wow, Krishna was taught that by his guru Sandipani Muni. Of course, Krishna is the source of all knowledge, but he shows by his example one should have a guru, one should learn.
Yeah. So those of you listening, we need to be encouraging our gurus to start telling us about fortune telling and stuff. And I'm joking. That would be something very different. And also thanks for sharing about what's happening with Krishna Consciousness in Hong Kong.
It's thriving, I have to say, really.
Yeah, and I hope. I mean, I don't watch the news much these days, but I hope that whatever happens in the future in terms of Hong Kong and its governance, I hope that Krishna consciousness is still able to be practiced publicly.
Yeah, it's quite okay. It's quite okay. Things are settling down right now, and just have to cooperate
and pray. Great. Okay. Sravaniya, I'm going to say goodbye to the guests at home, and you and I can have a very brief debrief after. So a big thank you to Sravaniya for being our 95th guest on the Hare Krishna Project
Oh,
podcast.
thank you very much. Thank you very much for inviting me. I feel very privileged and honored.
No problem at all. It's great to have you with us. Thank you for accepting the invitation. You're the first, even though it's the 95th episode, you're the first from Hong Kong. So we can put that in the history books. So a big thank you to everyone who's tuned in either on YouTube or Facebook. Don't forget, if you're watching it on YouTube, please do not forget to hit that all important subscribe button. And if you're watching it on Facebook, please do not forget to like or follow the Hare Krishna Project Facebook page. And please do leave a constructive comment. We always love to receive feedback. And of course, if you want to be a future guest on the Hare Krishna Project podcast, we'd love to hear from you. Until next week, we'll see you all soon. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.